Bucknutters? Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning Five here on Wednesday, July 26, 2017. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm very happy to be joined by Patrick Murphy. Patrick, of course, Big Ten Media Days wrapped up yesterday. Ohio State had all of its media obligations on Monday. There's so much going on at Big Ten Media Days in Chicago. From an Ohio State perspective, what stood out to you the most for Media Days, Patrick?
I think with these, you usually get a lot of good stuff from the coaches, and this is no difference here. When you guys were talking to Urban, I think we found out some things that are interesting as we head into fall camp opening this week. One of the big talking points we've had all off season is who's going to start at right guard, and I know you asked Coach Meyer about that. And he mentioned 7 guys, which really surprises me that many guys are in contention for this one spot. It's a pretty important spot on the offensive line, the one hole they really have to fill. And it was the guys that he did mention. It wasn't just the Malcolm Pridgeon, Matthew Burrows, Demetrius Knox that we heard, but, the freshmen and Josh Myers and Wyatt Davis and Thayer Munford, who I think has kind of been forgotten as a potential guy to play. I don't think that the freshmen, we saw last year with Michael Jordan, that freshmen can struggle at times, even though he was all right. But I don't know how seriously they're in contention. But the fact that unprompted, Urban Meyer named 7 guys, including multiple freshmen, stood out to me, and it'll be really interesting to watch them on the line as we get to see some of fall camp here. But that was the biggest thing for me. I think also a couple of things. J.K. Dobbins began in the number 2 spot at running back. Still looking for that guy at wide receiver to really grab that spot. Interesting things offensively, and I think defense, they're going to be all right. They do have to replace a few guys, but it seems like that's more or less figuring itself out.
One thing I found really interesting is this team, and we didn't just find this out at Media Days, but this team has 7 fifth-year seniors, not just on the roster, but they could play big roles, some of which will obviously play big roles. Let's go through the 7 fifth-year seniors on this team that could play big roles. J.T. Barrett, Billy Price, Tyquan Lewis, Chris Worley, Marcus Ball, Mike Hill, who we hear is going to start the season off on a suspension. Ohio State has not confirmed that. And Tracy Sprinkle, who's coming off the knee injury, but was a starter last year before the knee injury. Hopefully he can come back. If not full strength, at least pretty close to full strength. That was a bad knee injury, though. For those that don't know, a torn patellar tendon, doctors say that's worse than a torn ACL. So, and we know a torn ACL takes about 9 months to 12 months to come back from, so we'll see how good Tracy Sprinkle is. But the point of the matter, Patrick, you talk about all these guys, Barrett, Price, Lewis, Worley, Ball, Mike Hill, Tracy Sprinkle. I love this. Urban Meyer said this is the best leadership that he's had since he's been at Ohio State. Some guys on our board just wrote that off as coach speak, kind of made fun of him. I buy into it. When you talk about not just the type of, you talk about the amount of seniors they have, the type of guys they have like Barrett and Price and Lewis and Worley. I mean, these guys are true leaders, and I love the fact. I know Urban always talks about he doesn't like to have a lot of fifth-year seniors. I love that they have 7 fifth-year seniors that could play big roles on this team.
Yeah, I think, you mentioned Urban saying he doesn't like to have fifth-year seniors, but I think it depends on the fifth-year seniors. You've got a guy in JT who's started at some point in the season, each of the years he's been here, that he's been able to. The same with Billy Price. Tyquan Lewis is a guy who has been very productive, obviously. I mean, these are guys that a lot of them have served roles on this team. It's not like they've just hung around, and now are getting their chance to play here in their 5th year because, they're the most elderly guy, the most experienced guy. These guys are names that people know. They're guys that have won awards. Billy Price may not have been a center his whole career, but he's played that position and is up for some of the big awards. I think a lot of people think he's going to do. It's very similar to what Pat Alfine did a year ago. So I think it's different than what Urban's had before and when he's discussed not wanting guys to stay that long. I think this is a little bit of a different animal just because guys have had situations in their careers or just quite aren't ready to make the leap to the NFL that have allowed this. And I think it's great for the leadership of this team. There's a lot of goals this team wants to achieve this year, and in order to do that, they're going to need that leadership to keep them in line. It'll be interesting to kind of compare that to 2014 when it was obviously a very young team that came together and rose to the, occasion to win the national championship. A lot of people expect this team to be right there this season, but it'll be an experienced group, and, that could be fun to watch.
I guess 7 is the number of the day, lucky 7s, because we have 7 guys up for right guard, 7 fifth-year seniors on this team. I really don't think there are 7 guys up for the right guard job. I think he's just keeping there's probably more like 4. That's going to be a great competition at right guard, but, yeah, so far the number of the day so far is 7. Too bad tomorrow's practice doesn't start at 7 a.m., because that would be late compared to when it does start. Tomorrow's first practice for Ohio State starts at 6:30 a.m., and we will be there covering it. The first few periods are open for the media to take pictures and film videos. We will be there doing that. 6:30 a.m. tomorrow, Patrick. I always love seeing the newcomers. That's the one thing that always intrigues me the most. What are some things that you're most interested in seeing tomorrow morning?
Yeah, based on how much, we end up getting to watch and how awake we all are, I'm going to keep an eye on these receivers. I think that's going to be offensively certainly a position of need, something that, we might actually get an idea on too, because I doubt we're going to see much with the offensive line besides maybe some blocking drills and whatnot. But, who seems to just be standing out? They talked about swagger this offseason and wanting to bring that back to that receiver room. Obviously that starts now and probably started all summer, but, do they have that? Do guys look like they're really standing out? These names, Benjamin Victor, Austin Mack, Terry McLaurin, KJ Hill. I mean, we can go on with guys that, we've talked about for over a year now, but really need to seize the moment. And then defensively, just kind of see where guys are at in terms of kind of how the depth chart's breaking down. The cornerbacks, we've got, Damon Arnett, Kendall Sheffield. We know we're the guys in contention there. We know the guys in contention at safety, Eric Smith and Jordan Fuller. So just kind of see where those guys are at in terms of the depth chart and, how they're starting fall camp.
Hey, real quick, you mentioned the running backs a while ago.
Yeah.
When Urban said, because I was over there when Urban said J.K. Dobbins is going to be the backup running back, do you think he's going to be, I don't want to say he forgot about Demario McCall, because sometimes Urban will say, yeah, he's the backup, but meaning we've got 2 backups there that we're going to use. Did you take that as J.K. Dobbins is definitely ahead of Demario McCall, or did you take that as maybe Urban kind of was just saying J.K. is going to play, so is Demario? What did you make of that?
My first thought was that Demario may be making that switch to H-back that we all thought would happen this spring. Now you're right. It's a good point that Urban does kind of sometimes just talk about guys with the oars that they sometimes put on the depth chart. So it could be that they like both of those guys at the position, and they'll compete to try and win that spot, or they'll both share duties there. But it certainly wouldn't surprise me if they make the move to from Demario to H-back, and not necessarily to start over Paris Campbell, but to compete with him. I think that they can both bring some different things to that position in certain situations. So, and they could also, and a guy like Demario could play both running back and H-back, I think. We've seen a little bit of that before. So I took it that way, but, I think that'll be another interesting thing to watch where he kind of stands tomorrow.
Absolutely. Great stuff out of Patrick Murphy. We know where he stands, and he's in very good standing. Really appreciate it, my friend, and thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I hope everyone has a great day. Let's hear that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.